Hey guys, Bilal, Tech Sales Bilal here. Just wanted to make another quick video with my good friend and ex-student Brandon. So Brandon has kindly made the time to do like a quick call with us. I'll just start off with a quick introduction. Maybe you haven't like seen my story or know a little bit about me. So my name is Bilal. I've been in sales for about 4 to 6 years. Started doing sales for my own marketing agency back in 2018, 2019. That's when I really learned about sales and the power of being in sales. I got my first ever professional sales job in 2020 after graduating from university. And it was kind of a crappy sales job. I was only making around 30,000 a year, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about being a sales development representative, learned a lot about cold calling, the foundational skill set of sales. And then I learned about tech sales through friends and recruiters. Managed to convince a company to hire me as a founding salesperson in an AI startup in 2022. Did that for about 2 years till about 2024. So I took myself from a 30K year job to over 100K year job in that process. Then again, I left that AI company 2022 to go into a way bigger AI company 2024. And again, I almost tripled my salary again from 100K a year OTE to 250K a year OTE. And then I created a Discord community to shed some light into the tech sales industry because it is a bit of a unique industry. There's not that much information about it online, like law or finance or like other traditional careers. So I've been running that Discord tech sales community for about 3 to 4 months. Brandon was one of the early guys to join, and we've been friends ever since. And I just wanted to get his perspective on how he's been working with me, what his current situation is. So without going any deeper into my background, I'd love to get a quick intro from you, Brandon, about yourself. You can go into as much detail as you want.
Yeah, my name is Brandon. I just turned 23. It's got to be like, yeah, less than a week ago. And I just graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder in December. So I was just applying mainly to BDR and SDR jobs. And like Bilal said, there's like not a lot of resources online. There's I think that there's like some decent amount of like videos and like research that you can conduct to like learn about tech sales, but like specific questions that you might have relevant to your situation is where it kind of gets tricky. So that's why I joined the Discord community, and that was kind of like the framework that I had going into it was like I know these specific issues that I have right now applying to jobs, and I'm trying to solve that. Then I was like asking on different online forums and like trying to network with people, but they weren't really like solving these issues. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And this is why I created the Discord community because from about 2022 to about 2024, I was deep into those tech sales Reddit communities. I met a few people. I actually made some friends in real life that live in London, and I met them. But what I found out is that a lot of people are very unresponsive. There's no live weekly calls. There is no like coaching program. There's no one that you can actually speak to and get specific reviews on your CV and your LinkedIn profile. So I created a Discord community to help people out. And then obviously Brandon was one of the actual coaching students, and he would get specific weekly advice and all that kind of stuff from me. And the reason I created it is to just help people out because no one really helped me out. So what I would love to do, Brandon, is ask you a little bit more about your process so far. So how long have you been looking into tech sales, and what was the process and the results and the success rate like before you joined the Discord coaching program?
Yeah, so I probably started end of January. So I was in from September to December. I was studying abroad for my last semester in Barcelona. So I kind of like put job hunting, even though I was gonna, I was just finishing college. I wanted to spend the most time I can in Europe and really enjoy that. But then when I got back, I kind of had to like really reflect and figure out like, all right, how is the next years of my life going to look? And just talking with like my uncles and everyone, they sort of like recommended being a BDR and SDR for a company.
Mhm.
And I sort of so I studied philosophy, and there's like not many career paths coming outside of philosophy that one can go into. So it was like everyone, that I graduated with, a lot of them are going to go into law, or they're going to take, extra school, get like a master's degree in something, and then pursue that with their careers. But I never really gravitated towards law, and I didn't really want to do more school. So I was kind of like stuck. And sales was like one of the only places where you can really go into something without any experience. But um in sales, I sort of wanted it to be like interesting for me. I know you have to like really study, and I know you have to sort of like be really knowledgeable about what you're actually selling. So that's why I kind of chose tech sales, because it just seems like if I'm going to be constantly studying something, it needs to be interesting. And tech sales is pretty fascinating, and especially like the different industries that are emerging, and like the laws in AI, so stuff like that. But when I first started out, um I didn't really know how to go about the interview process. I mean, my first interview, I bombed, and that's fine. Like, the company was in Boston, and there aren't really any consequences that impacted me for bombing that interview, but it was kind of embarrassing. And yeah, the first interview was definitely not what I expected. But I got a lot of different interviews from like the top tier tech companies like
Wow,
Oracle and Dell and stuff like that.
that's epic.
And yeah, the Oracle interview, um, so they put us in like a panel, and in the for the final day it was like an Oracle Super Day, and it was 12 different candidates. They had the bandwidth to take us all.
Oh
And
wow.
everyone would give their like minute 30 long intro pitch, let's say, where you would talk about yourself, why sales, why Oracle, and everyone would go one by one and say in their pitch. And I felt like I don't want to say the strongest one, but it's like there are some people that would say cliche things like, I'm super competitive. When I was younger, they're talking about like when they're like 12 years old, I worked with an Olympic gymnast. And it's like, well, that's not really like that relevant for right now in your career. But it was a lot of stuff like that. Like people would try to like sell themselves, like they would Google online, like what does an SDR manager want in a sales candidate? And they'd be like, I'm money motivated, I'm this, I'm XYZ. They would kind of like I mean, they would tell, not show, that they're all those qualities. But so I did well in like that intro pitch, but then in like the actual interview where I'm 1v1 with a manager, the behavioral questions I kind of did poorly in, and the questions that I asked them, I also did really poorly in.
Right.
So so that like leads into the next stage of my interviewing processes, where I was working with Bilal, and when we were talking, like a lot of the focus was on on the questions that I would ask
Yeah.
in that interview, in that like final 5 to 10 minutes. And Bilal would kind of explain like the way that you're asking these questions, it's to display that, also it is to like vet them, and
That's it. Yeah.
like you want to understand the company that you're working with, but at the same time they're grading you on these questions. So you have to display that you're well researched, and that you actually like really care about this job. So like kind of like having that framework really helped, because in the last, 5 to 10 minutes, that's like what they'll remember the most. And when when I was in the community, I was working a lot with PackCheck. Like after our interviews, like we were interviewing at the same time. I would be playing the game's called Roblox. It's like a kind of like a children's game online, but there's some like fun games on that. I would be on Roblox, and then me and PackJack would be talking over Discord, and then we would just be like going over the questions that we asked them, the questions that we received, and different ways that we can improve.
Mhm.
So I don't want to just keep on rambling, but that was like the biggest shift. That was the biggest shift in what I was like before, and then what I was like after.
No, that's an amazing response. Just a quick follow-up question on that. How many interviews and offers you had before the coaching program, and how many interviews and offers did you have after joining the coaching program?
I don't know. Well, zero offers, and then now one, which I just received on Friday, that I'm very excited about and I'm going to accept. But in terms of interviews, um, I don't think I think yeah, I never really kept track, but I did 7 final interviews, so it probably was at like 3 or 4 before, and then 3 or 4 after.
Mhm.
And the interviews kind of like come in waves. Like there'd be a week where I don't have any, and then there'd
Yep.
be a week where I'm doing 1 to 2 every single day. And Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you were already doing pretty well before the coaching program, but there were like little mistakes, as in like the questions, maybe the behavioral questions, the follow-up questions that you weren't asking. And that's what it really comes down to. Fundamentally, getting a tech sales job is not rocket science. It's like little bits of everything that add up to like an amazing uh, conclusion, right? And I think Brandon is referring to a student of mine called Check, and I actually did an interview with him a couple of days ago. He had this kid is like probably 22 or something. I don't even know. But he didn't even finish college. He was a software engineer for a year, making 30,000 a year. And now he got five tech sales offers in like 2 to 3 weeks. And now he's going to start one today, actually, for 75K OTE in Europe. This is in Germany. And obviously, Brandon is in America, and I think his one is 80K. We'll go into that in a second. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Brandon and Pakchak found each other in the Discord community. They both got along, they're both super motivated, and they clearly helped each other out. One of the biggest things I always talk about is find an interview buddy. Find someone who you can practice with, find someone that you can work with together. So you and Pakchak obviously both got offers. Surprise, surprise, after only being in there for a couple of weeks because you pushed each other, you had me, all that kind of stuff. So that's really good. You were talking about quite a few things and you had some golden nuggets in there that I wanted to go deeper into. One of the things is like interviewing at some like really big companies. And that's super important. Companies like Oracle and Dell, especially if you're right out of college like Brandon, it's super important to get into as big of a company that you possibly can because that builds out your credibility, your CV, your brand, training, pay is always better at bigger companies. So that's a really, really important point. What I wanted to go into next is the offer that you have. Tell us a little bit more about that. Most people probably don't know what a BDR or a sales development representative is. Tell us a little bit more about the role, maybe share some details about the pay if you want, and a little bit about the day-to-day responsibilities and what the promotion plan looks like for the role that you have.
Yeah, so the pay, the on target earnings 75,000, so not quite 80, which is still for me, I'm very excited about that. And the base pay is 55,000. So
Is this a
the
fully
comp
remote job or?
no, I actually I only applied to in-person or hybrid roles.
Okay.
And that's just because like when a fully remote job goes live, they get like hundreds of applicants.
Mm,
And I didn't really feel like it was worth my time to only, to pursue these remote roles where it's kind of like hard, A, to really stand out when they're pumping through like 300 people, and B, if, this SDR, I mean, well, I'm going to be BDR. If this BDR role has like such a high learning curve, I kind of don't want to be in a room alone. I want to be
sure.
like working with a team so that I can ask, all these questions and just learn better. But yeah, so this interview, I'll take you through like how I like first contacted them, because like this is, if you're watching this and you're like applying for these BDR roles, like this right here is key. So it's like when that position went live, um I sort of like researched like, is this company legit? Like what is it? What are the details that I can find out about the sales team? And is this worth, my time? And then when you see if the company is interesting and if you want to apply for that job. So I sent like a message to the recruiter and the BDR manager. And I was just like saying like, hi, my name is Brandon. I just graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder, and I'm really excited to start my tech sales career. When you have the time, I'd love to have a 15 to 30-minute meeting so that I can introduce myself as a candidate. Something like that. Might not be exactly like that. But so I sent that to the recruiter, and then I sent that to the BDR manager within, 5 minutes of each other. Like, let's say 2 to 3 hours after it goes live, because if like a company's getting 30 applicants, within the first 3 days, they're just going to take that pool of people. And then the 30 that come, a week later, they're not just going to have that time to interview all those candidates. So you have to be like right away, you have to be like one of the first people in.
Sure, sure.
But the recruiter said to me that that he saw my message and was setting up a meeting with me just to, introduce ourselves and like do that first screening interview. The BDR manager was like, "Hey, do you know about this candidate, Brandon?" And then the recruiter was like, "I'm already speaking to him right now." And then that was like my first impression with them, is that like, if you're gonna be conducting outreach, like do that with your, with your job hunting first and get yourself introduced. And I think that like really helped with just like standing out initially. But yeah, so I had like probably like 3 or 4 interviews with them. And first was the recruiter, which went really well. I mean, the recruiter's super nice and I got along well with him. And then next was the SDR manager, I mean the BDR manager. And I worked with Bilal going into that interview, and I asked like some pretty high level questions, and he was impressed by that and moved me on to the next round. And he was actually asking like, "Are you in Denver? Like, what's your situation like?" And he wanted like to stay on after the initial meeting with him to discuss things further. And
Oh, okay.
just from there, I was meeting with like the BDR team and then the senior vice president of revenue operations. And piece of advice that I was given that like really worked for me is when I was talking with like the senior vice president of revenue operations, it was like a pretty like nerve-wracking interview. You're talking with somebody like super high up. But what helps with those nerves is thinking that like they need you. It's not like obviously like when you're in a job and you are applying, you're like, oh shit, like I'm unemployed, like and I'm speaking with this, guy that's crazy successful. But at the end of the day, they have this vacancy that needs to be filled, and you're the person that's going to come in and fill that in, and they're going to be really stoked that you're there. So that kind of like helped a lot with the nerves. But yeah, so just as a BD, you wanted me to go in like the day-to-day
Yeah,
responsibilities,
but
just
what do you
as
think would be like the day-to-day responsibilities of your job, starting whenever you're starting?
Yeah, so essentially any inbound leads that come in, like marketing team sends out a bunch of emails to potential um customers that they think are interested in the job. And if the customer clicks it and says I'm interested in like a free trial or something like that, I would come in and qualify them and see if there's the right fit and then move them on and set a meeting for a closer role, an account executive to 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 really close that deal. So I'm just going to be setting meetings, and that's like I just described with the inbound leads, but also just like cold outreach where you're, targeting 40 companies that you think are potential fits and trying to contact decision makers and people that are relevant, within that company and just trying to convince them to like book to get into a meeting with the account
Yeah.
executive.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's pretty much what a BDR or a SDR, pretty interchangeable, does. And that's really amazing as well, the way that you went through that entire interview process and closed the deal. 75K is pretty good for someone that just finished college. And again, this is the interesting thing, right? Like a lot of people, even like I go to these Reddit pages, like Reddit careers and Reddit jobs, especially in the UK and Europe, a lot of people are like at 35, 45, at less than 70K. It's insane that you can make like 75K at 23 just right after college. And that's the true beauty of being in tech sales. I wanted to ask you a question. Before I ask you another question, this is the context. A lot of people that just joined Discord or my community or message me from YouTube or whatever, they always ask me like, hey man, I'm trying to get into a sales career. I'm thinking about commission only sales jobs, retail sales jobs, call center sales jobs. And that's the minute that I go crazy and I like start screaming at them. I'm like, dude, go into tech sales jobs because you can make a lot more money. You're building a legit career and you're learning a legit skill set, and it's in technology. Technology has shifted humanity's potential to a much higher level now, especially with AI. But when you were thinking about sales as a career, what other sales career paths did you think about, and why did you eventually decide to go with tech sales as the one that you want to go with?
Yeah, I was thinking like construction too, just because it's like like Bob the Builder growing up, like it's pretty cool, construction and stuff. And it's like in Denver, like you'll see like you could any moment that you look around, you'll see all these cranes, and it's like, damn, like I want to sell cranes. But in terms of like breaking into that field, I didn't really see like the right path. And like I didn't really know like how to break into that. But the thing with like tech sales is that like the trajectory for like your career is like pretty laid out. And
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
you asked about that. So it's like you start out as a BDR and SDR, and then you're just booking meetings. But like after a year to, 2 years maximum, where you're hitting quota and then you're doing really good at that, the company itself is going to want to promote you and give you a larger role in the sales cycle. So they're going to move you in an account executive role, maybe an account manager, whatever, they really do. And I think that's like part of the appeal of tech sales is that you start out, entry level, great pay, a lot of responsibility being that first point of contact, but you move up within the company and then you get a larger role with even more, commission, with even more base pay, etc.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's ultimately like why I also chose tech sales because like my grandparents sent me an article that says like Gen Z, which is my generation, like in 10 years they're gonna average around 5 jobs. So they're job hopping like every 2 years. But
Uh-huh.
like with sale, with tech sales specifically, it's like those first 4 to 5 years like can be with one company and you can, you don't have to job hop to make more money, although some people do.
Yep.
And like when you have like when you're like an account executive, it makes sense. But just like being a BDR and then going into a company knowing that if you're an A plus sales rep, you're gonna get promoted. I mean, that's just great. And it shows like the respect that these companies have for their sales reps that, when you compare it to commission only jobs or jobs that like the other jobs that like you described, like I don't think that same level of respect is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so obvious to me that commission only jobs or multi-level marketing jobs or any of that crap, like I don't understand what goes through people's minds when they're thinking about their careers. But yeah, thanks for clarifying that. What would you say, and I think this might be the final question, what would you say is like the top three tips that you would give to someone such as yourself, just finished college, trying to break into tech sales? What are the top three things that they should do today to get a tech sales job in a week from now or in 2 weeks from now?
Um, let's see. Number one, I would say probably just like learn as much as you can about the role. Like there are times where recruiter, in that first screening, they would see I didn't have any sales experience. Like, well, what do you know about the BDR,
Like,
about the BDR role? And then I would just ramble on for like 5 minutes, just like laying down everything that I know.
yep.
And they would kind of be impressed and they'd be like, oh, like, well, how do you learn so much? And then I'd explain like, well, I did a bunch of research on YouTube. I'm actually, I've networked and I'm talking with an account executive from London, and I'm also, meeting with a lot of people that are in similar positions or just got hired, and I would kind of like talk about that. And even in this last interview, in the interview that I had with the company that gave me an offer, when I was talking with the manager, and we'd be talking about common objections that I'd be facing, I'd be like, yeah, like I kind of want to I want to practice with flashcards because I saw a research paper that said if you don't respond to an objection within the first like 1 to 2 seconds, they're going to lose confidence in you. So it's
Mm,
like just displaying like getting that knowledge and then being able to display that in an interview really helps because if you're trying to break into something without having any experience, showing that like they're not going to have to like hold you on a leash and teach you all these things can really like help you stand out. So that's like number one. Number two, I would say getting practice with somebody and like getting in network and finding people that are in similar roles is super helpful. Um, um, like I said, like with Bilal and then Pack Jack, I was able to ask a lot of questions. I know Pack Jack gave me some advice when we were talking. He was like, "You sound like super serious and you're super stern, and like you should try to be more personal." And I noticed when I was in these interviews, I was clenching my jaw and I was super tense and super scared. So then after that, I started, I'm all right, I'm gonna make an effort to smile more. I'm gonna do other things. I'm going to try to be more friendly, and
yep.
that really helped out a lot, and I wouldn't have gotten that if I wasn't meeting with these people. And also, I do mock sales call practices with anybody who asks, and getting those reps in is super helpful if you have like a mock sales call in your interview. And
Mhm.
then the third I would say is I think like for my situation, we didn't really go into this, but I had 7 final interviews before my offer. So just
Wow.
like knowing that just like keep on going despite all the setbacks, because it's like this role you're gonna have to deal with a lot of pushback and failure, and you have to like everyone, in the interview questions, like how do you show resilience? How do you deal with rejection? So it's like just focusing on that and focusing on like what works for yourself, dealing with the rejection is key because it's like A, that's what you're going to face in the role, but B, the way that you frame the question is like, what do you want to do to get an interview? I mean, to get a job within a week. But for me, it took like 3 to 4 months. So it's like, if you're gonna wanna if you're gonna wanna pursue this, it might be, difficult. It's not difficult to actually get a role, but it might just take some time. And just like learning things about yourself that helps you battle, helps you in the mental battles is key because now I kind of like that like I was getting constantly rejected before my first role because I know I have that confidence that when I'm in the role getting constantly rejected, that I can handle that and that I created these, mechanisms to deal with it. So
Yeah,
that's my three.
that's an amazing answer. And just to summarize what he was saying is obviously learn a little bit more about the job. So it's fundamentally learn what a sales process is, what a sales cycle is, how an enterprise sales organization works, what a BDR does, what an SDR does, what an account executive does. And really, if you're in the Discord community, there's a 49-page guide that I put together 100 hours worth of content to make sure that you never have to watch another YouTube video about this again. And if you're not in the Discord community, join that, speak to people like Brandon and me, and learn about the sales process. The second thing that he said is network, get a mentor, join a community, talk to loads of interesting people and learn from them. Finally, make sure that you don't give up. The breaking into tech sales is very tough, okay? Especially tough for certain people and easier for certain people. So Brandon and Pakchak, they're good. They're kind of exceptional in the case that they quickly got a role. Obviously, they had me and the community to help them, but it took me a long time to go from my normal sales job into a tech sales job. It was really tough for me. And obviously, that's why I created this community to make it easier for other people. But he's right. You can expect to spend 3 to 4 months before you get a good role. And look, you can get a sales job, commission only, door to door in 1 minute, but that's a useless waste of time. But if you want a proper serious tech sales job and a career, okay, it will take you 3 to 4 months to break in. And obviously, the money's worth it, the time is worth it, the benefits are amazing as well. But having said that, Brandon, thank you so much for your time, bro. Really, really appreciate it. Keep us posted on your progress when you start your job. If you have any other questions, obviously feel free to hit me up on Discord. Congrats again. Any final words before we end the call? Do you want to tell the community anything else?
Yeah, I mean, if you're joining the Discord community and you want to practice with anybody or have some questions, I'm always there as a resource and I'd love to help out.
Awesome, brother. Good luck on the roll. Keep us posted and God bless. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, bro.